It's time for the Commish Chronicle with your host and your commissioner, Mr. Ninja. Who's that guy? Well, thank you, whoever you are, and welcome back to another edition of the Commish Chronicle with me, your host, Mr. Ninja. We are moving on to our Week 4 version of the Commish Chronicle, and we're going to jump right in, start talking power ranking. Right out of the gate, let's look at who is number 12 in the Week 4 power rankings. It's going to be Halifax Highlanders once again. No change from the last time, and it's, if anything, it's just gotten worse for Halifax Highlanders. 11-35-2, 0-4 head-to-head. The only team to have not recorded a head-to-head victory so far this season is not looking good. An 11-1, just thumping. At the hands of return of Captain Thick Nick. You know, a tight one to only losing 7-5 to It's Our Year, but still a loss nonetheless. It's not looking good for Halifax Highlanders right now. Their goalies have been bad. I don't know how else to say it. A small pro to take from it. Marner seems to have started to improve. He's at 17 points leading their team. But Con right now, Robertson, you know, he had a really, really big season last year. Right now, only sitting on 9 points. Not terrible, but a guy that you at least need on a point per game pace if he's going to be a keeper for you going forward. So you would want more from him. And I'm sorry, buddy, but you got the lopsided loss of the week once again. Ugh. Listen, I know it hurts, but you know, it's the second in a row for loss of the week. That's for that Week 3 loss to return of Captain Thick Nick. We'll see if Halifax Highlanders can turn it around, but it is looking bleak through the first 4 weeks of the season. Moving on, we have Thunder Down Under. A drop from last rank of 8th, 15-28-5 record for a 1-3 head-to-head record. Unfortunately for Thunder Down Under, suffering 2 very lopsided losses to good opponents in Mr. B and THT and the first place team in the league right now, Curiosity Killed Debrincat. But 9-1 and 9-2, it just means that Thunder Down Under is on another level from some of the top tier teams in this league. And they're going to have to do some soul searching here to figure out what they need to do to improve. Started off this season very strong with a win. Since then, losing 3 weeks in a row. Not good. And it doesn't necessarily get any easier for the next 2 weeks going up against Yaz and a very hot return of Captain Thick Nick. Looking at it again, 1 win or less in 6 of the 8 skater categories. Not good enough for Thunder Down Under. They're going to need to improve that to have any shot. A pro, you do have Victor Hedman right now leading the team with 14 points. You do also have Draisaitl, I believe, who has 14 points, but you expect Draisaitl to be doing at least at a point per game pace, which is around where he's at right now with the Oilers. Draisaitl, you need to be, you know, top tier echelon, be doing great things. And a Con, despite the extremely hot start from Georgiev, he's allowed 22 goals against in his last 5 games. Avalanche got absolutely decimated. Thunder Down Under making lots of excuses in the chats that we've seen about the Avs doing bad. You know, it's the Avs though. They are going to turn it around. I do believe that's going to get better, but as of right now, it's not looking very good for Thunder Down Under. In the next 2 weeks are going to be tough. Looking at 10th, we've got North Korea. Up since last week, where they were 11th. You know, I was tempted to put North Korea higher, and I'll explain later maybe why they aren't higher than 10th this week. But 20, 22, and 6 for North Korea. They still have just a 1-3 head-to-head record. Their one win is coming against Messier Guarantee last week in a 9-2 thumping of them. But realistically, we got to look at this team and we just look at them and we say, right now, their skaters have been pretty weak. Case in point, Hagel and Vetrano. That's right, Hagel and Vetrano lead this team in points with 12 points apiece. Now, that's great for Hagel and Vetrano, but when your team is required to go deep, you don't want, you want Hagel and Vetrano having good seasons so far to be a side benefit to your high-end somewhere player doing extremely well. As of right now, that's not happening for North Korea. So remains to be seen what's going to happen there. But yeah, you just need more skaters to step up. That being said, again, like I said, strong goalies, 4-0 in goals against average. North Korea is riding the goalie train. If they can just get a better breadth of skaters to do well, I think they could do, I think they could move up in the standings and really compete. And going off of that, a con right now, Erik Karlsson coming off like a 110 or 111 or something like that point season last year. Right now, only 8 points with the Penguins. Not doing good enough. Put him back on the Sharks. They need him badly. But right now, just not good enough from Erik Karlsson, and North Korea finds itself in 10th. 9th is the replacements. Same as last week. I still, up and down with this team. I don't really know where to look at them because they had a big win over Yaz, who's a strong Yaz team. But then a lopsided loss to a return of Captain Thick Nick, and you just leave yourself wondering, like, where is this team going to be? Currently still 1-3 head-to-head. Not a terrible overall record. And just, again, like I said, 9th in these rankings. Still lots of potential here. But we're going to have to see what they do. Next 2 weeks, it's our year, Messier Guarantee. See what they do with those two teams. Hard to say where they lie as well. Strong point getters, but they're losing in goalie stats. Big pro for them right now is Jesper Bratt. 18 points so far with the Devils. I believe Bratt was a keeper for the replacements. Maybe was a question mark in terms of keepers, but listen, all things considered, doing well. And just because I need to pile on, a con right now is Fantilli. 2nd overall pick this year. Has only 6 points. Depth stats that I'm looking at, not particularly fantastic. But, maybe Fantilli will start to pick it up. I'm going to continue to hate on him because, that's where we're at. And I'm sorry, the replacements, but because of that loss last week, you get lopsided lots of week 4. As we are moving on. 8th, Messier Guarantee. And this is a tough one. Last year's champ. Last 2 years. 1st overall in the league. And last week, not last week, but the last time I did the Commish Chronicle, they were ranked 1st. Had them 1st in these rankings. And they drop all the way down to 8th. Maybe I jinxed it. I don't know. You can blame me. But the reason it's such a significant drop, which is going to be pretty rare in these, but the reason it is because they lost to North Korea and It's Our Year. 2 teams that were pretty low in terms of my overall ranking on the season, and especially that lopsided loss to North Korea last week at 9-2. Now, we have to look at what's in front of us. Jack Hughes got injured. Obviously a devastating loss for Messier Guarantee. Jack Hughes has been off to a fantastic start. Jack Hughes being injured last week, though, has certainly hurt them. And they just haven't been able to ride that strong start. Again, Jack Hughes is supposed to be back in a few weeks, I think. But until then, it's going to be tough. He's a pro, though. Again, 20 points, even with the injury. Who knows where he'd be at if he had played, the last 3 or 4 games. A con right now, picking up Johnny Gaudreau. Only 5 points so far for Johnny Gaudreau. Put that in perspective. I was just talking about Adam Fantilli, who plays on the same team as Johnny Gaudreau. Fantilli has more points than Gaudreau. What? I'm sorry. Just not good enough. The benefit here for Messier Guarantee is that he plays Halifax Highlanders and the replacements in the next 2 weeks. Huge benefit, because if he was playing some of the higher end teams with the lack of scoring from some of his guys outside of a Jack Hughes, it could be rough. We're going to see where they do over these next 2 weeks, but very favorable next 2 weeks. By far the easiest in terms of where we're at right now in the standings. The easiest next 2 weeks go to Messier Guarantee. As we move on to 7th, it's our year. Now, last rank for It's Our Year was 10th. You still might look at this and you might say to yourself, this is still a low rank for a team that is 3-1 head-to-head. What I'm looking at with It's Our Year is that all of their wins have been narrow by, I believe, 1 or 2 wins, and their one loss was a lopsided loss. So while at the end of the day it's important to get the wins, they're not dominating anybody as of yet, so I'm hesitant to want to rank them higher. As well, let's look at the last 2 teams that they beat. They beat a Jack Hughes-less Messier Guarantee, and they beat a Halifax Highlanders team that unfortunately just is not very good, and it was only a 7-5 victory. We got to look at all those for what they are. They've won the last 3 weeks in a row, so I commend them on that. That's why they do jump to 7th. Should they maybe be higher in these rankings? We'll see. But I think the next 2 weeks are going to be a good sign of where they really lie. With the replacements, again, weaker team, they should win that based on these rankings. And Batman Returns, who I believe is still a very strong team that's waiting to break out, who's currently 6th in the standings. Got to look at it though. Shesterkin injury. Not sure what's going on there. We're gonna have to see what happens. But the pros right now for It's Our Year: Larkin, 17 points so far. Because I end up doing this on a Tuesday, I see that Larkin may or may not be injured. Hopefully not. But a great start for Larkin in Detroit. By far his best start, I think, to any season. And con right now is McDavid only at 10 points. Now I know McDavid was hurt, I think, for 2 games. I don't know if he's still nursing an injury. But when you have Connor McDavid on your team, similar to what I was saying about Draisaitl earlier, you need a guy, you need McDavid to not be a point per game player, which he isn't even right now. You need him to be better than a point per game player. That's just what he's always been, and that's why you have him on your team. So we're going to have to see what happens with McDavid. As we move on, middle of the standings here, it's going to be Yaz. Now, Yaz last rank was 4th, so they moved down 2 in the power rankings. Record overall of 21, 23, and 4 for a 2-2 head-to-head record. And again, the reason Yaz is not higher right now in these rankings, the reason they moved down, is I'm looking at that loss to the replacements, 9-3 in week 3. It's tough to know exactly where Yaz stands. A narrow victory to Batman Returns, a solid victory to Batman Returns, but where truly are they? 6th is not a bad spot to be in these rankings, but I believe right now there's better teams. They are what I consider to be a very 500 team. 7 of 12 stats they're 500 in, except they're 0-4 in the shots on goal category, which is kind of astonishing considering you have a guy like Austin Matthews on your team who tends to shoot the puck a lot and leads the league in goals. So you're 0-4 in shots on goal, but you also have Austin Matthews on your team. It's kind of a weird one to me. But I do look at it, I say pro, obviously Matthews, 18 points, leading the league with 13 goals so far this season. Crazy good. Dubois is a con right now for Yaz. Only 6 points right now since going out to LA. LA's been doing very good without Dubois having to be that great. Like I said, only 6 points. See if he can pick it up. I would assume that he's expected to be doing better there. We'll see what happens. And looking at the stats, a slight goalie regression for Yaz. Vanacek hasn't been quite as hot, even though New Jersey has still been pretty good. The stats haven't really been there. Next 2 weeks for Yaz, Thunder Down Under and Grisky's All-Stars. A very strong Grisky's All-Stars team, and right now, a very weak Thunder Down Under team. We'll see if they continue that 500 record, if they can, push past, especially a team like Grisky's All-Stars in 6. Moving on to 5th. It's Mr. B and Tage T. Now, last rank for Mr. B and THT was 7th. They move up 2 spots. Overall record right now of 25, 18, and 5 in a 2-2 head-to-head record. They've had 2 very lopsided wins and a couple narrow losses. Big win over Thunder Down Under week 3, followed by a very, very, very tight loss to Grisky's All-Stars last week. Looking at the next 2 weeks, they've got North Korea, who's currently 8th in the standings. Mr. B and THT, I believe, is 3rd right now in the standings. So, should be able to take down North Korea, but we'll see what happens. And then they've got Curiosity Code to Brinkat. Now, Curiosity Code to Brinkat 4-0 right now in head-to-head. But in the past, Mr. B and THT, they've had Curiosity Code to Brinkat's number. So we're going to have to see what happens there. But I have a feeling that's going to be the first loss for them. Not Mr. B and THT, but Curiosity. You know what I get what I'm saying. Goalie categories for Mr. B and THT. Very, very weird one. They are above 500 in goals against average and save percentage. Very, very strong in those stats. Yet they are the only team in the entire league that does not have a win in the wins category for goalie stats. So kind of an interesting one there. And their physicality is coming out 4-0. Only team right now to be 4-0 in both hits and blocks so far this season. A pro for them, Artemi Panarin, off to a great start with 18 points for the Rangers. A con is Bertuzzi in Toronto. Only 3 points after starting on the top line with Matthews and Marner, moving to the second line with Tavares and Nylander. Don't get me started. It's ridiculous. And that's why even today I've already dropped him. Somebody else can pick him up and watch him rot. And of course, Mr. B and THT is relying on the Leafs goalies right now, who Samsonov obviously been hot and cold. They're the only ones to make a trade so far this season with the replacements, getting rid of Jari, not getting rid of, but making a trade for Jari and then picking up Samsonov off waivers. We'll see if that ends up working out for them long term. Moving on to 4th, it is return of Captain Thick Nick. Now, again, return of Captain Thick Nick. Very strong couple weeks. 2nd in the standings right now, moving from their last rank of 5th up to 4th. Now, should they have made a bigger jump? That remains to be seen. Just the lopsided wins are against 2 teams that right now have not proven themselves to be very strong. So I'm considering that when I'm looking at this. They've won the last 2 weeks. We're going to see if that continues. I don't know. But I consider this upcoming week to be a very interesting matchup in Bettman Returns. Again, what I consider to be a very strong Bettman Returns team, currently 6th in the standings. I think this is really going to show us where both of these teams lie, return to Captain Thicknick and Bettman Returns. And then they have Thunder Down Under in week 6, which by all accounts right now should be a victory for them. And again, we got to look at this. It's been absolutely nuts. Pet and Pasta continues. Pedersen and Pasternak doing great. Plus the Canuck luck. I know Pedersen's obviously part of that. But Quinn Hughes, like I have down there, 21 points so far. And Demko off to an incredible Vezina caliber start this season. The Canucks have been crazy good. Is this going to be a long-term thing? For Return of Captain Thick Nick to do well, it has to be maintained. But so far, Pedersen, Quinn Hughes, and Demko, all on this guy's team, all have been fantastic to start the year. It's just been crazy. The only con I'd say right now is goalie depth. He's essentially, if you look at the goalies, I forget even who your second goalie is right now. Who was it? Anyway, only holding 2 goalies, fully relying right now on the Canucks and Demko to get it done. I think he's using the ad drops right now for that extra goalie here and there, but it is all on Demko to continue this pace. If they don't, then Return of Captain Thick Nick will fall down the standings. And I did notice that Jordan Kyrou, a guy who was near a point per game player last year, right now only 6 points with the Blues. You'd expect him to be doing better. Just kind of just a small thing that I threw in there. Just because I noticed he's maybe not doing as well as you might think he would be. Next, 3rd, Bettman Returns. Listen, they've lost their last 2 weeks. They are a 500 team, 21, 21, and 6. Why are they not lower down in these rankings with a 2-2 head-to-head record? Batman Returns, in my opinion, has had the hardest schedule so far to start the season, and it does not get easier for them. But I do believe, again, that they have a good team with still some underachieving players. So, lost to Curiosity Code to Brinkat, top team in the league right now, and a loss to Yaz, very narrow loss to Yaz, also a very strong team in this league. They're still suffering from injuries. Freddie Anderson injured. Boldy just got back from an injury. Liney's still out. Batman, if you look across all their categories, it's very indicative of what their record is. They're a very 500 team. And overall, a pro right now, Kucherov, 20 points, off to a great start. A con, when these guys start picking up their game, McKinnon, 9 points, it should be over a point per game player. Ovechkin, so far only 2 goals on the season. Ovechkin, who's likely to break Gretzky's record in goals. You know, you expect that he's going to pick up that pace, even on a Capitals team that isn't very good. And Jonathan Huberdeau, I mean, after last year, who knows what's going to happen, but you still think that he's going to be better than right now 6 points in 12 games or whatever they have been in Calgary, who's been off to a terrible start. Those are just 3 players among a team of very strong players with Batman Returns, who I believe should notch themselves up at least one echelon here and start pushing Batman Returns forward, get some wins, or at least survive this early stretch of what I consider to be very, very tough matchups to start the season through the first 6 weeks. And like I said, looking at it, return of Captain Thick Nick, 2nd overall in the league, and it's our year, 5th overall in the league. It doesn't get easier for them right now through week 6. So they've got to survive this and see if we can get into the next. But again, Freddie Anderson injured. Again, doing this on a Tuesday, get to know that that's still happening. Freddie Anderson, that's a tough one with the blood clot or whatever's happening there. That's going to be a really tough injury to deal with for Batman Returns right now. And of course, with that matchup, Batman Returns versus Return of Captain Thick Nick, I consider that to be the matchup of the week. So we're going to enjoy that. 3rd in the power rankings versus 4th in the power rankings, Batman Returns and Return of Captain Thick Nick. And we move on to Gretzky's All-Stars, who is 2nd in these power rankings. Jump up from 6th to 2nd. Really, really a strong couple weeks for Gretzky's All-Stars, and just a deep team here. 23, 22, and 3 overall record, 3-1 head-to-head, beating North Korea and Mr. B and THD narrowly last week. They've won 3 weeks in a row. But really, the test is these next 2 weeks against Curiosity Code to Brinkat, the number 1 team in the league, and Yaz, who's currently 7th in the league. Right now, dealing with a Dylan Cousins injury after he had actually a very strong start for Dylan Cousins to the season. See when he's going to come back. And just a well-balanced attack. If you look across this team, very, very, like I said, well, speaks for itself. Well-balanced, really consistent team. Brock Besser right now leading the team with 15 points. Sometimes, similar to what I said earlier with North Korea's team, sometimes I'd be a little bit concerned that Brock Besser is your leading point getter, but you do have a lot of depth there. See if your other guys can step up. But hey, ride the Besser train and the Canuck train while you can, because he's been very strong. And Talbot, resurgence of Talbot, a 923 save percentage and a 214 goals in average so far this season. Crazy good start for Talbot. Can he keep that up? We'll see. And a con, apparently I didn't put one. So I don't know. Maybe you don't have a con. Maybe I just forgot to put it in. Guess we'll have to wait and see. Who knows? You know, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. As we move on to the first team in the power rankings. Maybe they should have been there last week. Maybe I gave favoritism to the last year's champ. But Curiosity Code to Brinkat right now, in my opinion, is far and away the best team in this league. Last rank was 2nd. This week, rightfully so, they are 1st. 33, 10, and 5 record to start the year. The only team undefeated in head-to-head, and it's not even been close. They have been beating their opponents fairly handily so far. An 8-3 win over Batman Returns, which was the matchup of the week from that week, and a 9-2 winner with Thunder Down Under. Next 2 weeks, tough matchups. This is really crunch time for Curiosity Code to Brinkat. Can they beat some of the stronger teams in this league? 4th overall team right now in Grisky's All-Stars, the 2nd team in this power ranking, and Mr. B and THT, who's currently 3rd overall in the standings. 2 tough matchups. Like I said, we'll see what happens in week 6, but that could be their first loss. We're going to see what happens. Crazy stats here, though. Above 500 in all categories, not including shutouts, but in every category other than shutouts, above 500. That is a crazy stat so far through 4 weeks. And more importantly, it's that it's so balanced in what they're undefeated in. They're undefeated in goals, power play points, hits, and save percentage. In my opinion, that is a very spread out team, very balanced team. If they can keep that up, that's going to be huge for them. JT Miller, again, the Canucks, just incredible. Leading point getter for their team, 18 points. Fantastic start for him. The only con to look at, a pretty big one. Adam Fox injured. Who knows? I haven't really looked into it to know the timeline on that, but obviously that's a massive loss for Curiosity Code to Brinkat. See if they can get through these next 2 weeks without an Adam Fox. That could be very telling of how good this team really is. And Hellebuck, he's got a lot of wins, but his actual stats, looking at them, not particularly strong. It seems like every time the Jets win, he plays well. Every time they lose, he is abysmal. So we're going to pay attention to the Jets, see if Hellebuck can keep the stats good, even if the team doesn't go up in pace. We'll see what happens there. But again, Curiosity Code to Brinkat, by far and away the best team. And because of that, it's a double matchup of the week. Double matchup of the week. That's right. We're doing 2 matchups of the week. It's Curiosity Code to Brinkat versus Grisky's All-Stars. Again, 2 very, very good matches to pay attention to. The first in these power rankings versus the second in these power rankings this week. It's going to be great. Pay attention to it. Some great stuff. Let's look at it one more time as a review. On the podium, Curiosity Code to Brinkat, Grisky's All-Stars moving up into 2nd place, and Bettman Returns holding strong at 3rd, following out the rest of the pack. We will see you in 2 weeks, and we'll see what changes happen here. Thank you, and have a good one.